Hello, I'm Amy Harbison. Welcome to Seniors Today, a monthly program produced by the Commission on Aging devoted entirely to issues and interests of Montgomery County seniors. On today's show, we learn about life after a stroke from the Montgomery County Stroke Association, and we explore the many career opportunities offered at the 50 Plus Employment Expo. But first, I am very pleased to welcome Montgomery County Chief of Police Tom Manger to the show. Good morning, Police Chief Manger. Thanks for joining us.
It's good to be with you.
Well, we can't start out without saying that this is a very big moment. We've heard big news from you, and it's been all over the news that you will be retiring after 15 years as our county police chief. And that's big news, I'm sure, for you as well as for the county. Tell us about this big news.
Well, it's 15 years as the police chief here. It's 42 years as a police officer, and
wow.
So it's time. And I have worked in Fairfax County. The last 15 years as the chief of police here in Montgomery County. I've worked for 3 county executives, and it's been a great ride. But actually, a very nice opportunity came along that would be a little less stressful, a little less 24/7, but allow me to stay in the profession, allow me to stay in a position where I can influence the police profession in the right direction, I believe. And so I just seemed like the right time to go.
Well, tell us what you're going to be doing next.
There's an association called the Major City Chiefs Association. It's an association of police chiefs from the largest jurisdictions in the nation, New York, Los Angeles, Detroit, Houston. And Montgomery County is actually a member of that association as well, because we have a very large police department. And they have a representative in Washington that works with Capitol Hill, works with the White House, works with Department of Justice. And the individual who's been in that position for the last 20 years is retiring, and he approached me and said, "You need to think about taking this job." So I'm going to take over for him.
Wonderful. Sounds like a great fit. We'll be missing you very much in this county. 15 years is a long time to be serving in your position. Tell me how police work has changed in the 15 years you've been on the job.
Well, it's changed a great deal over the past 42 years, but certainly in the last 15, we've seen some high-profile incidents occur around the country that were, whether it is things like 9/11 or the sniper case here in Montgomery County, through things like Ferguson, which really sparked national conversations on race and policing, on police use of force, on police accountability, and certainly has influenced the focus on the relationship between the police department and the community that they serve. And that has certainly been a big focus for us.
Yes, you mentioned that community building is so important to you. Tell me, particularly with seniors, what kind of relationship have you had with older adults in the county, and what are some of the biggest issues that they're facing that they come to the police for help with?
So I've actually spent, over the 15 years here, I've probably been in the leisure world 40 times to speak to different groups. That's a very active community. I love going up there. When I go to homeowners association meetings, we joke sometimes that the average age of the people in the audience is, senior, and because I think that as folks, get to that age, they really do get more involved and are more involved in their community, and so it's not unusual to have a lot of contact with them as I go out into the public. One of the things I talk about when I go to Leisure World is the fact that seniors are like other groups in our country, sometimes targeted by criminals. And I recall very vividly my dad, who, when we bought our house in Silver, when he bought his house in Silver Spring and we lived there, he was a fairly young man. I guess he's in his 40s, and when he got into his 80s and he was in the same house, the people that would stop and see him working in the yard and stop and say, oh, you need a new roof, or we need to fix your driveway and things like that. And a lot of them were scammers. And,
right.
But so I think folks see the elderly sometimes as vulnerable, and sometimes they're targeted for that kind of fraud, that kind of theft. So we talk about some things that people can do to prevent themselves from becoming a victim.
What kind of relationship does the community have with you? Do you think there's built a sense of trust over the years that the police are friends and people to turn to?
I think most people feel that way, but not everybody. And as I tell my folks, I said, I know we've got a lot of trust built up in the community, and people have a lot of confidence with us. Certainly, surveys that we've done have borne that out. But this is a very diverse community, and there are segments of our community, whether you talk about break it down by race, break it down by ethnicity, break it down by faith, new immigrants to our community, their trust level of the police might not be what we want it to be. So that's where we really need to focus our outreach efforts and focus the time we spend to build that trust up and make sure people know we are everybody's. We're here to serve everybody.
Everyone. What about our new incoming police chief, when that person is appointed? What kind of skills do you think that they need now in 2019?
Well, I can tell you that the ability to connect with people, and I mean everybody, whether it is connecting with the police officers and your employees within the organization, connecting with the elected officials, and being able to connect with the public. And when you go to a Chamber of Commerce meeting in Germantown, it's a different sort of meeting than when you are going to a meeting of residents in White Oak. And you've got to be able to connect with everybody. And really, you need a genuine spirit for public service to be able to do that. And I think anybody that has been a police chief or is aspiring to be a police chief knows that this is a 24/7 job.
Sure.
And that you never have a day off, and you just need to understand that that's what is required. And if you're willing to make that commitment, willing to be out in the community as much as you can be, I think that those are the necessary ingredients to be successful.
Chief Manger, before you leave, can you tell us quickly about the transition and what's going to happen?
Sure. I'm working very closely with the county executive, Mr. Elrich. We are doing a nationwide search. He acknowledges we have good people internally that will apply for the job, and I'm hopeful that they get a good look. But he also wants to look nationwide to make sure that we can get the best person. He just announced yesterday that one of my assistant chiefs, Russ Hamill, will be the interim chief after I retire and before we select the new chief. And Chief Hamill is not applying for the job because he's retiring at some point. So it's a good selection. He's got a lot of experience, and he'll do a good job in there, and he won't. And the fact that he's not applying for the job makes him, I think, a good selection to be the interim chief.
So it sounds like we'll be in good hands, but
Absolutely.
We certainly have been in good hands for 15 years. We wish you all the best. Thank you so much for coming to join us today at Seniors Today, and best for your future.
Thank you, Amy.
When we return, we will learn about Montgomery County Stroke Association's efforts to raise awareness about life after a stroke and share some resources for survivors and caretakers. We'll be right back.
Did you know there are more than 10,000 county government phone numbers? But there's only one number you need to remember for non-emergency calls: 311. MC 311 is Montgomery County government's online telephone information system. Need information? Have a problem or complaint? Trying to locate a county government facility? Call 311. The call center is open Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The website is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Welcome back to Seniors Today. The Montgomery County Stroke Association educates county residents about living a quality life after a stroke. Joining me today is Elaine Parreco, and she's with the Montgomery County Stroke Association and its Silver Spring chapter. Good morning, Elaine.
Good morning.
How are you?
Great. Thanks for having us.
Tell us a little bit about what is stroke in terms of medical issues in the country. How does it rank?
Stroke is an enormous cause of disability in the United States, both among older people and young people. Although the stroke increases after age 75, we have a number of stroke survivors who had their strokes under 50.
Wow, so I think that's not something the public would typically think of when they think of strokes. So a large number of people are getting strokes in younger years, not just seniors.
That's true. In what should be the most productive years of their lives.
Wow. So tell me a little bit about what the Montgomery County Stroke Association does. I know you really help people understand that there can be a life after stroke. Tell us about your programs and services.
We offer information, education, and a sense of hope to stroke survivors and their caregivers. We're all stroke survivors and caregivers. We volunteer our time in order to help others because a stroke isn't, unlike other diseases, a stroke is an earthquake in your life. It changes many, many things, not just your physical ability, but your cognitive, your mental ability to manage information and communicate with others. And while the medical people can save your lives, it's difficult for them to help you or any other stroke survivor find their way about how to live.
So what kinds of services do you offer to help people in that difficult time after they're released from hospital or rehab settings?
Prior to release from hospital, we visit people in the hospital and the rehab if they call and ask. We do support over the telephone, both in hospital and after people go home. We run 3 free stroke support groups that offer educational programs and professionally led support groups for caregivers and stroke survivors. In addition to that, we offer recreational programs like our twice-a-year crab sail, which is a Chesapeake region accessible boating sailing trip for stroke survivors and caregivers out at Sandy Point. We have a really wonderful program initiated by our last founding member, Janet Gritz, who has a program where we're utilizing the iPad and applications for the iPad to help people with speech and communication disorders and cognitive problems.
Wow. So what are some of the biggest issues faced by stroke survivors once they get home and are back in their lives?
Boy, it's so many things. People who haven't lived with someone who have a stroke tend to worry about paralysis, but communication disorders and what's called problems with executive function. In other words, not just how to communicate, but manipulating information, not just memory, but sometimes there's too much information coming at the stroke survivor. They're not demented, but you give them too much information, whether it's written or spoken, or you send them to, say, a really wonderful physical therapy gym where they have too much music on. The music interferes with the stroke survivor's ability to pay attention and perform the physical therapy activities. Well,
tell me, I know you feel that I've heard you say something about the fact that if people get the help they need, they have a good chance of regaining some life skills, but people tend to give up on stroke survivors once they get back home. What do they need in order to thrive after leaving the hospital?
They need good rehabilitation. They need a partnership both with their primary care and hopefully a good neurologist. And also people, whether it's from the Stroke Association or friends and neighbors, to give them encouragement. People always have a really strong memory of what it was like not to be disabled, so they discount their progress. One of the things people in the Stroke Association help people do is you'll come to a meeting and somebody will say, "Oh, look over there. Last week John was still using the quad cane. Now he's progressed to a single post cane. Or I remember the day we had one person that hadn't been able to stand without holding onto the table, and she really worked at it, and everybody was so excited when she could stand.
Wow.
And that doesn't sound like a big deal, but it's like a trip to California. If all you did was think about the goal at the end and you didn't find the little benchmarks, okay, now we've traveled 500 miles, now we've traveled 1,000 miles.
Right.
You got to have the benchmarks of progress.
So encouragement along the way is
Encouragement
really important.
and helping people see their progress.
Tell us about how people can find out more about your services and how they can be supported if they need it, including caregivers.
Well, we have our helpline is 301-681-6272, and that's our helpline. We will answer questions about stroke rehabilitation. We have trained stroke survivors and caregivers who will answer questions or meet privately with individuals. They can go to our website, which is mcstroke.org.
Right.
They can come to a support group meeting at one of 3 locations. The Silver Spring chapter on Forest Glen Road at the Schweinhout Senior Center, the Bethesda chapter, which meets at the Davis Library on Democracy Boulevard, and the Upcounty chapter, which meets at the Adventist Rehabilitation Facility in Rockville.
Great. And one last question.
Sure.
I know you mentioned something about a free workshop or talk that you do for businesses and local government. Can you say a little about that?
We do. One of the things the stroke survivors that help in our organization or on our board said that they're really upset about the fact that there are 2 really good treatments for stroke now, but the public has to recognize what the early signs of a stroke are, and the people having a problem need to be taken to the hospital. So we're doing some outreach education. In addition to telling people about our services, we're doing an educational effort where we visit business, government, churches, and civic offices and community groups to talk about what a stroke looks like and how to identify a stroke and the importance of getting people to that emergency room as soon as possible.
That's great. Elaine, you and your other volunteers are really providing such a great public service. Thank you so much for coming in today to talk about stroke and how people can be supported along the way if they're caregivers or if they've gone through the process themselves. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
When we come back, we'll explore the career opportunities offered at this year's 50 Plus Employment Expo. Stay tuned.
The color in my garden keeps the pink in my cheeks. I was very independent and thought I could take care of myself. I fell and I had to have Meals on Wheels. They're my savior. My name is Lola Silvestri. America, let's do lunch.
Drop off a hot meal and say hello. Volunteer by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
They said a bottle was just a bottle. That no one would ever notice me. But I knew I could be more. That one day, I would make people smile.
Welcome back to Seniors Today. The 50 Plus Employment Expo will be held on April 15th at the Marriott North Bethesda Conference Center. Joining me to talk about the expo is David Gamse, the CEO of the Jewish Council for the Aging. Good morning, David. How are you?
Thank you. Good morning, Amy.
Nice to have you today. And we know that employment is so important now for seniors. They're working longer, they're needing to feel like they have financial stability longer, and you've been doing this expo for a long time now. So Tell us a little bit about it and what people can expect if they come.
Well, JCA, the Jewish Council for the Aging, has been running this expo for decades, but it has changed over time. And I think that the older workers who attend, and we get either hundreds or thousands, depending on the economy and the weather, but you know, the people now have a certain degree of almost desperation. I don't know anyone who can live a quarter to a third of their adult lives in retirement. No one has saved for that. Furthermore, these folks have a lifetime of skills and experience. They want to use it just as they have at every other age and stage of life.
Wow. So tell me some of the kinds of things people can expect to see at this expo. Are they interviewed? Do they have other opportunities there besides interviewing?
Yeah, we take over the Bethesda North Marriott. So imagine all of their ballrooms filled with employers and older job seekers. Every employer there is committed to fighting age discrimination, being blind to the fact that these are folks with gray or white hairs. In fact, they are eager for that kind of experience. So the first thing people need to recognize is there's a lot of people and a lot of interested employers in the room. The room is divided in half. On one side are training, adult education, other sources of support, and on the other side are the employers. Most people come to meet with the employers, but they leave telling us that it's the workshops, the resume review, and the counseling that they receive that really was the most important to them during the day.
That's great. They get a number of wraparound services, it sounds like, and I heard they can even get their photos taken for their resumes and for LinkedIn as well.
Absolutely. AARP is there, and at their booth they take digital photos, which is a very valuable tool, as you know. And in addition to that, they have an opportunity to network with other job seekers. So we set up tables so that teachers can get together and accountants can get together and others and exchange ideas and contacts and so forth. It's also a way that we can tell people about some of the other employment services that JCA runs, including our Career Gateway program and our Senior Community Service Employment Program.
I want to get to Gateway in a minute, but I understand you create a guide for this event?
Absolutely. Every year we co-publish with Washington Jewish Week a guide. This time it's called A New Gig for Senior Adults. Gig employment is the new buzzword.
It is.
In some instances it's nothing different than a temp job, but in other instances it's an older adult realizing his or her dreams or utilizing skills they've had all along that they never thought was marketable. I'll give you just one example. Imagine getting paid to wait in line to pick up theater tickets. If you've got the patience, somebody's got the money to pay you to do that. That's gig employment.
That's gig employment. And so there's real opportunity for people to reinvent themselves at this stage of life instead of feeling they have to do what they did for many years in their previous work. That's great. Well, tell us how people can learn more about the upcoming Expo.
We have a telephone line dedicated to it, and that number is 301-255-4209. That's 301-255-4209. And our website is a wealth of information about the Expo and the other JCA programs. And that website is www.accessjca.org.
I bet you're giving that number out a lot right now.
Oh, we are, because people are excited, and we've had more employers with us last year than ever before. I think we're going to top it this year.
Wow. And you also have a similar event in Fairfax, I understand.
Yes, we do, on April 30th. And we do have several folks from Montgomery that go trekking across the river, and vice versa. Because let's face it, if you're serious about employment, you're going to make sure there's no stone unturned. And it's also important to recognize that many of these employers are regional or even national firms. So it's great to meet, and there's a different mix of employers at the two locations.
Give me a short minute or two about your Gateway program.
Right, the Career Gateway program is 30 hours of intensive classroom training as well as one-on-one mentoring by an older worker who's been there, done that, and knows how to help.
Oh, fabulous.
And it is phenomenally successful in helping unemployed older adults find the jobs they need and want.
Terrific. And can they learn about that service as well from your website?
Yes, at the website and at the Expo. Not surprisingly, JCA has its own table there. And it's really thrilling because all of our services are low cost or no cost. We are eager to give them away, and there is certainly no cost to attend the 50 Plus Expo.
What kind of jobs are typically offered there? What are employers seeking at this kind of affair?
A real mix. We have home care agencies, but don't think they only want home care aides. They also need managers. We have temp agencies. Don't think it's only a short-term stint. It may be for years because employers often get around hiring freeze by bring on temps.
That's right.
This year we're going to have the Census Bureau with us. They have a lot of jobs. So whether it be tech or whether it be service industry, you name it, the challenge for us is we often don't know who will be exhibiting there until a week or two before the event, because we require that employers actually have jobs that they are eager to fill. We don't want them there if they don't have the jobs, and certainly the older job seekers don't want to talk to someone about an amorphous future.
Well, David, it sounds like a terrific event coming up. I hope people looking for work will come to the Expo.
Oh, I do too.
And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for this month's Seniors Today. Don't forget that you can access this show and a great deal of information about county services for seniors by going to the Montgomery County Senior website at montgomerycountymd.gov/seniors, or call the Senior Resource Line at 240-777-3000. And as always, thank you for watching Seniors Today.
Be prepared. Storing water is smart, especially during the winter months.
WSSC averages 1,800 water main breaks a year.
So with all the other emergency preparation, remember the water.
Here's what you should have on hand. 1 to 2 gallons of safe tap or bottled water per person per day. Store enough to last each person at least 3 days. And don't forget the pets.
Check out WSSCwater.com/winterize for more tips.
WSSC, where water matters.
Starting today, you can be active and treat yourself to a wide array of great activities offered by Montgomery County Recreation. With 4 indoor aquatic facilities and 20 community rec centers that offer exercise and weight rooms, you'll find everything you want from sports and fitness to senior activities, from cooking to dancing, classes, trips, and tours. Be active. Be active. Montgomery. Yes, starting today, you can work toward a healthier lifestyle. Learn a new skill, relax a little, or just meet new people. Visit our website to see all the exciting programs, activities, and classes available to you. And be active, Montgomery.
Get there faster. Ride On has a new Route 129 limited stop service running along US 29 corridor. There are convenient park and ride lots along the route where parking is free, getting cars off the road, reducing congestion, which can decrease commute time. Visit rideonbus.com to stay up to the minute with schedules, updates, or delays. The Route 129 limited stop service runs in both directions along US Route 29, just 15 stops from the Burtonsville Park and Ride to the Paul Sarbanes Silver Spring Transit Center with our regular fare of $2. Ride On. Get there faster.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. How could you not love him?